Put it in.
Welcome to the O Brother Podcast with hosts Dan and Mike Smith, brothers from the same mother with different opinions on movies, TV, video games, and more, plus celebrity interviews. Get ready, get set. It's time for the O Brother Podcast. Welcome to the O Brother Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith.
How's it going, Dan?
It's going good, man. November 14th, when you get in this episode of the O Brother Podcast, I'm trying to hold back the chuckle because you were immediately
Well,
giving the
sneaking a look.
You were sneaking a look at what is a new addition to your posters on the wall there in your movie room, which is your podcast studio, the great Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which it is that time of year. It's one of the best Thanksgiving themed movies ever.
And I ordered the 4K yesterday, which comes with a digital. Let's hope it has the extras. It's got an hour of extras.
Nice. Yeah, and there was
Never
something...
seen.
Okay, right. I remember you said that to me pretty recently because, we thought we'd seen pretty much everything that was out there.
Right.
So that's exciting. So yeah, Planes, Trains, and all, but I love that. It's a great addition.
Yeah.
The classic Del Griffith and Neil. What was Neil's last name?
Neil Page.
Neil Page, yes. Nice to meet you, Neil Page.
Yeah, they'll be there year round, I think, along with Orson.
And Citizen Kane, yeah. It's a great
and
couple.
Then Jaws will probably...
Jaws, yeah, a little random.
We'll come and go.
We'll allow it. I actually have, you can't really see behind me, but I have the Christmas Classic box set behind me. The Blu-ray.
Christmas Carol?
No. Rudolph and all the animated Rankin and Bass movies. That we grew up on. And also I have Fat Man. My autographed copy of Fat Man, which you got to get a Fat Man poster, would be really cool.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
I'll check into it. I'm looking at most of my, Christmas stuff. See, it's coming in 4K, which is a killer, but I'm not going to rebuy that in 4K.
No?
I don't think so. I want to, but
I will.
We'll see if the price comes down.
We'll get it. So, yeah, November 14th, 2022. Now, well, first of all, before we get into the film, which is, I have to say, this was one of those deals where, you threw this out there as
I got to tell you that story too,
related to the film.
Why this was picked.
Okay. So we're doing a first of many here, this is the first Roku original film that we're doing, which when I saw that, because I called you and I said, I can't find it. Where is it streaming?
And I don't have a Roku and you do.
Right. And I couldn't find it because I'm using it on my Apple TV menu and it's sort of not really connected to the Roku side of things. So anyways, finally, when you said that, I go, okay. And then I found it on the menu. And the movie we're talking about, of course, is Weird, the Al Yankovic Story, which just came out on November 4th.
Right.
2022. Very limited, theater release. It was basically a streaming, straight to streaming on the 4th.
And I think we're the only one covering it.
We might be. Now, did you want to tell the story real quick about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because.
Start off with that.
I don't like the late night shows. I don't watch them. They're all maybe which Jimmy Kimmel's pretty good, but
all the
other
Jimmys.
two, Colbert does a lot of political stuff, and I get enough of that.
Since when is it Colbert?
Well, I did the L silent Colbert.
Stephen Colbert.
But it's Colbert. His mama named him Colbert.
Did you say his mama named him Colbert?
Yeah.
His mama named him Colbert.
The back of his...
Who are you?
When they called him in football, in number 42, Colbert.
His mama?
What do you got?
I'm still hung up on his mama.
I don't know where it
his
came
mama
from.
Called him Colbert.
Stuff comes out. I don't know where.
I've noticed something recently with your accent. You've been back in the Northeast for too long because
so is it sliding?
You're picking up some of the. No, it isn't so much like the Harvard yards and stuff.
Right.
It's it's more subtle. It's things like
It's those
it's when you say robot, it's
right.
robot.
Yeah. And it's those words that aren't used anywhere else. Like, do you have any elastics?
Or yeah, hey,
People like,
can you get my
what?
shirt out of the bureau?
Yeah. What?
That's another one.
Or hey, I'll get a carriage, okay, so we can go shopping. I
Right.
said that the first time I was in Florida. People were like,
A
"What do you have, a
carriage.
kid?"
Yeah, you got horses in the trunk? What's going on with that?
And they called it a buggy,
A,
and I was like,
a
"That's worse than
buggy,
carriage."
like pop
Yeah,
versus,
pop
we would just say the
versus.
brand. No, give me Coke,
We
Pepsi,
used to
whatever.
say tonic when I growing up.
Really?
Yeah, it was like, "Hey, let's get
Wasn't
some
that what
tonic."
you put in your hair?
I know but that's what we called it. Coke, Pepsi. It was
Interesting.
tonic.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So anyway, getting back to the weird
Back to the story.
story.
Yeah. As
But I'm
weird, wacky stuff as
but
Johnny
I'm flipping the
Carson would say.
channels looking for something. I don't know. I think it might have been the World Series, believe it or not. I think I was the only one who watched outside of Houston and Philly. And I flipped on Fallon, and
Okay.
Weird Al is sitting next to him. And I don't know why I stopped. I'm not
Wait,
a
wait, wait. You
fan.
mean Jimmy Fallone? You mean
Yeah, Fallon.
he's
You
on
know,
before Colbert or
he
after
dro-
Colbert?
he dropped the E.
And the two L's.
So, I come across and they're sitting there, and Fallon's doing his shtick. This is the greatest movie. I love you, Al. I was your biggest fan. I'm the biggest fan of you. And when what's the girl who played Madonna? What's her name?
Evan Rachel Wood.
Evan Rachel Wood. When Evan Rachel Wood came on, she was Madonna. This is the greatest movie
Yeah, it's
ever.
typical
10
Fallon
out of 10.
over exuberance.
He says that to everybody. He sucks up to everyone. He's the biggest Hollywood shill there is. So anyways, he's sucking up to, Weird Al. And then Weird Al kind of tells the story. And he
And then
said,
all of a sudden you were getting
and I was like,
in.
And he said, it's not true. I thought it was a true story. It isn't. There's bits of it that are, and you see it at the end, which we'll talk about. But this is what gets me. He says, it's free. You can go on Roku, Amazon, Apple,
Right.
Free of charge.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, that's the next show.
And that was it?
That was it.
Well, the only thing
suck-up was the big thing.
Yeah, the only thing about that though is for those who haven't seen it yet and have access to see it on Roku, I wasn't a big fan of having the advertisements.
There wasn't a lot, but yeah, that's a turnoff.
That was a turnoff.
And guess what's coming to Disney Plus next month?
That's right. Don't get us started. That's a whole nother episode.
I'm pissed.
Yep. You want your ad-free version of Disney Plus? You're going to pay this.
You want your premium?
Right. We're going to have to get back into that. We'll do another episode on the Disney Plus thing because that I don't want to get you too heated up here for the Weird Al story.
I'll be like,
So okay, so you convinced me because I said to you, I really don't want to watch this.
Right.
I got no interest. When I saw the trailer and the previews with Daniel Radcliffe, who plays Weird Al, it just seemed like a goof. Like, is this a goof? Harry Potter is Weird Al. I just didn't get it.
And one of the things, because that hit me too, is he looks nothing like him, and he's like,
he's very diminutive. Correct.
Right. So Weird Al says, well, you can't think of it as, an impression or a parody. It's him just doing the story.
Yeah. And, the whole movie is it's like a parody of a parody.
It is
what it is.
It is.
And you said, in fact, it opens, there's a little intro by Weird Al introducing the movie.
Yeah.
And he basically says it's absolutely, totally not exaggerated,
Right.
And all right. So I get into the film. It's less than 2 hours, an hour and 30,
148
40 minutes.
But the commercials, which were only a couple.
Yeah, maybe an hour 35, hour 40 tops.
Something
You
like
know,
that.
it's really the sweet spot for movies, which, as we've said before, they don't do that anymore. Everything's
Yeah.
2 plus, you know,
Right. Two and
more
a
like
half.
pushing 2.5. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I was hooked almost immediately by
Mm.
the film. So I was like laughing out loud. And at the very beginning, I couldn't tell. It took me 5 minutes maybe to go, wait, is this a goof? Is he trying, is this a drama? Like I couldn't quite figure it out. And then you realize how genius it was with
Right.
the comedy. Like the guy that plays his father, um, Toby Huss, who's
Yeah.
got a missing
One
hand.
hand. Yeah.
Yeah. He's
From the
got
factory.
from the factory, which plays a big part of the whole plot. You know, at first I'm like, maybe Weird Al's father, like I didn't really know his life story, you know.
Right.
But I will
Right.
say, I first want to mention that, you know, I came to an awareness of Weird Al way, way back because
When
I do
MTV started.
no before that.
Really?
Yes, I do remember hearing the Dr. Demento show,
I did too.
which was it was broadcast, you know, nationwide on I think the Westwood 180 radio network.
He was very popular in the Northeast.
He was,
Yeah.
and I think the Philadelphia area in particular too, and you know all those surrounding uh, states and
And he's
cities.
played by Rainn Wilson in the movie.
Rainn Wilson, right? Who I heard, I don't know if it's true, he just changed his name to like Rainwater Heat Wave Extreme Cold to bring awareness to climate change.
That's gonna fit good on a
Did
jersey.
you hear that? Yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear it.
I guess to bring awareness to climate change.
Yeah,
But
good luck.
anyways, yeah. So but Dr. Demento, I can remember
Mhm.
hearing my Bologna,
Mhm.
which was a parody of My Sharona by the
I think that
Knack.
was his first.
Yeah, and then another one, Rides the Bus.
Right.
So I have vivid memories of hearing that on the radio as a young. I'm probably about 7 when those hit
Yeah,
because
you were pretty young.
he's about what, he was born in 59, I think. He just turned 63 actually last month.
Yeah.
Close to your
Yeah.
birthday.
Close.
I mean, he's older than you, but
Yeah.
uh, so you know, I had early memories, and what I loved about this was it was not only, you know, sort of a satirical look at his life, but also just things that were relevant of the day. You know, Mad
Right.
Magazine, and did you pick up on the Columbia record?
Yeah. Yeah. It's great.
Reference?
12 for 49 cents.
Yeah, 12 for a penny. So some of those references, and of course,
Right.
all of the pop culture icons of that time.
Conan O'Brien
So many cameos.
was a good
Yeah,
chuckle.
Conan does Andy Warhol.
Yeah.
And Conan was
a
just,
terrible Andy Warhol.
I thought it was good. I thought it was good. But he was just on Howard Stern, and he was talking about how he filmed that so long ago, he forgot that he was in the film. But I guess Weird Al had approached him, as I'm sure he did everybody else, because I imagine he's got a long list of friends in the business.
Oh yeah.
This is such a genuine, pure guy. You know, he's
Yeah.
he's a Christian. He's never swears, hasn't done drugs or alcohol, lives a very, very clean life. But yeah, so from the get-go, you just, after I said maybe 5 minutes, I realized, okay, this is just complete insanity.
Right. And
You
then of
know,
course the opening sequence is him on a stretcher, right? That's the
yes,
opening.
that's right.
And he's being wheeled into the emergency room and they're pumping his chest.
That's right.
And
And
the
I'm like,
doctor
oh,
says,
there was a car accident I didn't know about that Weird Al was in.
right.
You know, and his surgeon is Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Right. Lin-Manuel. Yeah, and he,
Yeah.
he says, okay, let's call it. And
Yeah, time of
Weird Al
death.
sits up instantly.
And then
Give me a pencil.
That starts the story.
And that kicks it off.
You know what struck me most about this was, and I guess I mean, I'm assuming you enjoyed it.
The
Oh,
first
you didn't
hour.
like it?
The first hour.
Really?
When Evan Rachel Wood came in, she was fine. But she was.
I thought you had
The ma-
such a thing for her that it would be a hands down no brainer.
I had to
that
think for Madonna.
No, for Evan Rachel Wood.
Oh.
from
I was gonna
Westworld.
say, I was like, wait, yeah, no, I don't have a thing for Evan Rachel Wood either. I like
Mm,
her.
mm,
I like her as an actress.
mm.
Um, but the Madonna character was in it way too much.
No, but again, the absurdity that they create this plot line that they
Yeah,
fall in
they're a
love and have this.
couple,
They're a
and
couple,
yeah,
and then she gets
Eh,
kidnapped by Pablo Escobar and his crew, and he has to
right.
go rescue her. It's just so over the top insane.
And there were always rumors of him in a relationship with Madonna. I don't
See
know if
that
you knew that.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
No, I don't remember that.
So he was again a parody of a parody.
Hmm.
And when he was on Fallon, Fallon said, "What's the deal? Because there's always been rumors about you and Madonna." And he said, "Yeah, we met. Yeah, we were together."
Hmm.
He said about 45 seconds in the back of the MTV Awards. That was his entire
Hmm.
relationship with Madonna. It was 15 seconds.
Yeah.
So again, but I don't know why, but when it hit that spot, I stopped laughing. I really, like you said,
Mm.
I was with all the references. Some of them were so obscure, you almost have to rewind it,
Yeah. I mean,
to see the watermelon get smashed.
Gallagher. Yeah, Gallagher was in it. So there's a scene where Weird Al goes to Dr. Demento's grotto, the grotto, and
Right.
they're having this party out in his property, and every pop culture icon of that time, the late 70s and 80s, are there. Like Grace, is it Grace Jones? I always confuse Grace Slick and
Grace
Grace Jones.
Jones.
Grace
Yeah, Grace
Jones.
Jones. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I love this was great. Again, memory lane for me. Wolfman Jack, which is
Wolfman with Jack
Wolfman
Black.
Jack Black. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he with the voice was so ridiculous. And they played it so dramatically.
So straight.
They so straight. I loved it.
That was one of the highlights. Jack Black doing Wolfman.
And then, they did this other brilliant thing where this one, again, they sucked me in, and then I go, oh, that's genius. So this is sort of at least midway through the film when he and Madonna are now well into this relationship that they have. And she's clearly a bad influence on Weird Al. He's becoming very reckless, and he's performing at one point in Miami, and he's on stage and he's got his shirt off. By the way, Radcliffe is like ripped to the gills.
He's always been. He always
yeah, but
has
he was
been.
like really beefed up on this one. He was like jacked, he's like huge, which was
Yeah.
a little weird, juxtaposition between Weird
Right.
Al.
But like I
But
said, he did a play where he had to be nude on stage, which
right,
is, God help him. I don't
right.
think I could do that.
I thought you did back in '97. Didn't you
I
do good?
accidentally stuck my Johnson out, but that was Toby.
Okay,
That had nothing to do with the play.
Whoever's editing this episode, please cut and trim that whole situation. Wow, got turning blue here,
Well,
folks. Come on, I just said what a clean guy, Weird Al is there, and you're
Right.
taking it down the gutter. But no, but the point of me bringing that scene up is, as it goes on, you realize, oh, they're spoofing Jim Morrison's performance in Miami, where he got arrested for whipping out his,
Right.
his business on stage. So
Yeah.
he's drinking a bottle of whiskey.
Yes.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty fun.
And for the
Go ahead.
fans of his videos, there's a couple in there, Madonna, like a surgeon.
Yes, which I remember vividly. And then Amish Paradise, there's a whole story behind. Now, that's the one beef that an artist had with Weird Al that I'm aware of from Weird Al himself, was this whole back and forth with Coolio. Coolio was not, who just died, by the way. He just passed away. He was, and you may not have been as familiar with Coolio, but he had a song called Gangsta's Paradise, really, really popular hit.
Yeah, I know that.
So Weird Al does Amish Paradise, and in the film, Weird, it's based on his father's life story of being Amish, and
Right.
turns out his father was a songwriter that he, but he hid away his talent because,
You have
what,
to go
his
to the
parents didn't
factory.
approve to
I
work
know.
at the factory. Yeah, the factory. Oh my God!
Who
But
played the mother? Do you know?
Julianne Nicholson was the
She was
mom.
great.
She was
She
really
was
good. Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. But I lost my train. Oh yeah, Coolio. So he was really upset with Weird Al when he parodied
Well, somebody had to
that
give him
song.
permission.
Well, I don't that's why it shocked me that it was in it
Right.
because and then of course there's an actor, portraying Coolio in the front row at the MTV Music Awards.
Right, right,
Did
right.
you see him with the hair? That was Coolio.
Yeah, I didn't know who it was,
That
but I
was
did
Coolio.
see
I
him.
I swear I thought that the end was gonna be, like, dedicated to Coolio or something, but because that was a
He
long riff that existed. He was never happy about that.
Wow, I didn't know that,
I
but
think he sued him. I mean, I think it was
the
a lawsuit.
Yankovic bump that they talk about,
Yeah.
that's a real thing.
I figured it was. I don't know that I ever heard that term before, but or
No, I never
phrase.
heard it until now, but
Makes
he
sense, which was really the whole rationale behind the Madonna plot
Madonna,
point.
yes,
She wanted to get
yes.
the Yankovic bump, so to speak.
He kept refusing to do her music.
That's right. And here's another bit of genius was that they made it out that "Eat It," like "Beat It" was a parody of "Eat
Of
It."
Eat It, exactly, that was pretty clever,
Oh
and
my god.
on Fallon, he said, he had to get permission for all these songs,
Mhm.
and he literally he wanted to do a Nirvana song, and I forget which one it
Well, no,
was.
I think he did "Smells Like Teen Spirit." He did
He
eventually.
did, but the
Right.
way he couldn't get the guy, the manager to give him the rights.
Oh, okay.
So he was on Saturday Night Live that night, Nirvana was. So
Oh,
Weird Al calls Saturday night, asks for Kurt Cobain. He
really?
answers the phone
Really?
and he said, "Hey, where I want to do one of your songs." And at first he was reluctant, and then he said, "Well, what?" And he told him the story, and it was going to
Yeah.
be a positive take on it.
Right.
So Kurt said, "Yeah, go ahead, you can do
Wow.
it."
I
Yeah,
never heard that.
yeah,
That's an
so
interesting
that
one.
was you wouldn't have known that unless you saw him on Fallon.
Yeah, which I didn't. I saw him. I did see a brief interview with him. Well, no, it was an older interview with him on Howard Stern, which I'll get back to in a minute. I wanted to bring this up towards the beginning of the conversation, but I finished Veep,
Wow.
the entire series, and I didn't realize it because I was getting to episode 9 of season 7. I was like, "Oh wow, how many episodes are in it?" And I look and it says series finale. I was
Yeah,
like, "Oh my god." I did that in the course of what? A month at the most?
less than that.
Less than that? But here is the weird thing. I just finished that and I start watching Weird. I swear every other character in Weird was an actor in Veep.
Oh, no kidding.
The narrator who was David, I can't think of his name. He's very, very familiar face, but
Yeah.
the narrator, which was a weird voice, and it clearly wasn't Weird
I
Al.
know, didn't sound like
It was so
Al.
not Weird
That
Al.
had to be a gag
I
too.
think it was intentional. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Dr. Demento, Rainn Wilson, he was spot on for Dr.
Yeah.
Demento.
Yeah. I don't ever remember seeing Dr.
Oh,
Demento.
really?
I always listened to him. It's funny because there was another character called, oh, what was he
Nervous
called?
Norvis?
No, it was
Oh.
on Friday nights, and it was, he did
Oh,
horror. He was
oh,
called, oh my god, it begins with a G.
not
The
in the
Ghoul, The Ghoul.
the Ghoul. I don't
Oh,
know the
thank god
Ghoul.
I thought of that.
Elvira is the only thing I can think of.
And she was on the show a couple times.
Okay.
So the Ghoul would come on TV, and he would, like, in between commercials, you'd see him do a sketch, and me, our older brother, and our cousin
Yeah.
Steve
Oh, right, right,
used to
right.
watch that all the time, and it was just it was on, like, late at night, the only thing on.
Right.
But that was, like, you know, a special treat for us.
Well, it made me think, we are of the analog generation, and living in
Right.
this digital age now. But again, this was such a trip down memory lane for me too.
Yeah, it will for people, I remember when MTV came on the air. We were
Oh yeah.
downstairs. We had gotten a flood. Our basement was completely flooded. The only time it ever happened from, I think, a hurricane or something like you're sitting in right now.
Mm.
And we were like mopping it up with wet mops, and we were getting nowhere. And then all of a sudden, there was literally a pattern, and it came on the air.
Oh, you're
And
talking about, yeah.
about MTV, and it was like they had maybe 3 videos that were just all they play.
Yeah, yeah. Well, quick trivia. Do you know the very first video ever played on MTV?
Oh, I just forgot.
And name that band, folks.
I should know this, but I'm gonna know it as soon as you say
It
it.
was Video Killed a Radio Star.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I think the band it was the Buggles?
Was it just,
Was it the
concert
Buggles?
footage?
I gotta look that up. No, that was an actual video.
That was an actual video.
Yeah.
So, they were kind of ahead of the time then, because a lot of the first
Yeah.
generation
The Buggles.
Buggles,
Yeah.
wow.
There it is right there.
Um, you know, a lot of the first generation MTV stuff was just from a concert.
Well, yes and no. I mean, a lot of it was actually just very crude, and some really just an empty studio with a key, the basic
Right,
instruments,
right,
some like monochromatic backdrop, and that was it, you
right.
know. But you're right, there was also an equal mix of footage from concerts and things like that. But
And then all of a sudden, I think Michael Jackson lit it on fire, but it was, it was big before
it
then, but
was. There were a lot of artists in heavy rotation in the beginning. I mean, there was like Devo and the Police, and
Devo, I remember.
I mean,
I
I was
remember the
glued.
Police too.
I was glued to that. I'll never forget when it aired, and
Then when Michael Jackson did Thriller, it was 15 minutes
yeah,
long.
at that point, it was a whole different thing.
Right.
It was a whole different animal at that
It
point,
it
and
was
you had
basically like
to.
the mini
And
movies.
then well, right, you had to have a concept video
Correct.
or forget it. It just
Right.
didn't land. So, um one of the things I love, one of the devices in this that I love too, is the way they would do, like, in the beginning as he's growing up, uh, Al, this idea that, like the accordion, portraying the accordion as smoking weed. Like it was,
Right.
oh, like
Or
they went to a party.
the
His friends
polka
convinced him
party.
to go to a party. It's a polka party. He
Yeah.
said, my parents will kill me if they know I'm at a polka party.
Right, right.
And then it gets revealed at that party that he can play the accordion. He's like this,
Right.
master. And they're all like, all in awe of him. And
And
I just love the way they did that.
you know, he was like bully. He had to
Oh,
be.
totally had to be
I
bullied.
mean, I could just see him on the bus, getting beat. But
But there were
at the
things.
end,
Yeah.
when they showed the pictures, the one that
Yes.
shocked me the most was his 3 buddies that he lived with.
Yes. That's his band. I think he may still tour with some of those
Yeah,
guys.
and you could tell they were like high school age.
That was a funny thing too. Like they're just roommates he's living with as he gets out of the house and gets
Right.
older. And then in one scene overnight, turns out they're all accomplished musicians,
Yeah.
because some of those stories were true. So the one where Al comes up with another one, Rides the Bus, I think,
Right.
based on the Queen song,
Right. He
which
was on stage.
John Deacon getting ragged on in this film. The actor who played John Deacon from Queen. Remember they're like,
Oh,
I'm John.
oh, right.
He's
He
like,
was at the
and
party
everybody's at the party going, who? And he's like, from Queen. He goes,
from
the
Queen,
bass player from Queen.
and then he
Oh,
asked Al to do his song at the
yes.
Queen concert. He said, "No, I'll pass."
Well, he says, we're doing this little gig called Live Aid. And he
Yeah,
said, nah, hard pass.
yeah, hard
But
pass.
that story of him going into a restroom because of the acoustics and all of that, that was
Right,
legitimate. That
right,
really that he really recorded it that way and sent it to Dr. Demento.
right,
That's how
right.
that came about.
That's the thing. You don't know what's real and what's
Well,
not
the,
real.
the traveling salesman with the accordion, that's true.
Yes. Yeah.
And apparently it was between that and a guitar. and the parents went with the accordion because they thought it might
I
revolutionize
assume
rock.
the dad didn't beat him to an inch of his life.
No, I think they had a really close relationship. Now, speaking of his parents, I don't did you know do you know the story of his parents?
No,
Okay,
no.
so this may shock you, but um and it was interesting because, once you get into the film, it wasn't a surprise to me that it didn't go into this territory because it wasn't that kind of film. It wasn't that sort of biopic. But his parents both died of carbon monoxide poisoning.
No shit.
Yeah, from their fireplace. And there's an interview I mentioned. I saw him in an interview on Howard,
Uh-huh.
right? And this was back in 2016, I think.
Wasn't that long
No,
ago.
no, no. This is the interview.
Oh, okay.
His parents, it was actually, I have the date, I wrote it down, April 9th, 2004. And so the flue on the fireplace was closed,
Yes.
and they
That
didn't have,
that's
they didn't,
common.
they didn't have a carbon monoxide detector.
Detector.
So of course he, obviously an advocate to make sure that you have one of those if you don't.
Right.
Um, So
I didn't know
very,
that.
yeah, super tragic. And I think part of why you may not know it is because the way that he dealt with it, he was on tour when it happened,
Right.
and he decided to continue on
Mhm.
because he felt like it might be therapeutic. He
Right.
said over the years, fans have always come up to me and said, some of my music's gotten them through hard times. Maybe it would do the same for me. And he said it did, but just shocking, story to hear that and how sad, that must have been.
Yeah, well, when I was 11
Mhm.
and a
That,
couple of kids that,
yeah, I
w
remember.
they weren't friends of mine, but, you know,
Yeah,
they were part of our core. Uh, and this happens every winter when we have a blizzard.
and they were in the car in the
They
garage.
went into the car. I don't know if
Yeah,
they were in the garage, but, they're buried in snow. So the tailgate is all full of snow,
right.
and they start the car up to get warm because, I in the winter, it's miserable when you're
Right,
freezing. And sure enough, they just went to sleep.
yeah,
It was
right.
just an
That's
awful,
exactly what happened. Yeah, you go to sleep and you
yeah,
never wake up.
just an
So,
awful thing.
yeah, and so, obviously that is not none of that is portrayed in this.
But
I
if
I just
if
go ahead.
you're like an MTV kid and
Mhm.
that's when you grew up,
Oh, yeah.
this has to tickle a few of those funny bones.
It has to, yeah.
And if you're a Weird Al fan,
Well, and that's the other thing about this. As it went on, and then when it ended, I said, it really shows what a 1 in a billion chance this was that
yeah,
he has the career that he has.
right, an
It's so
accordion player.
it's insane,
It's
and
insane.
by making up lyrics to existing songs, the
Which
whole
is
thing is
basically,
insane.
what do you wanna do when you grow up? Well, I wanna write different lyrics to famous songs.
Right?
That was
Yeah,
his,
as a kid.
it's like, "What?"
But I wanna mention he, first of all, I'm not sure that I knew he's been a vegetarian since 1992, which of course, I'm not a meat eater, so I thought that was interesting. But let me read some of his accomplishments. Over 12 million records he's sold,
Amazing.
4 gold records, 6 platinum.
Which you
Uh,
wore around his neck in the movie.
that's right. He 5 Grammys he's won.
Yeah, that's
And
amazing.
he's only 63 years old. He's still got a lot of
It's interesting
weird left in him.
because, we're so close in age, yet, the beginning of his career, I remember, but it just kinda fizzled out for me.
Yeah, and I think it probably was speaking more to me, more to my
Yeah, I think
generation,
it picked up.
because it was so silly.
Right.
Yeah, it was so silly.
I mean, I thought I remember when he did "Eat It,"
Yeah,
in the red jacket,
right.
and that's the one I remember most.
Yeah, and then he did Fat, which was a takeoff
Right,
on
on
Bad.
Bad,
Yeah,
right.
that was good.
So and he re-recorded all of those songs
Mhm.
for this movie.
Yeah, and
78 songs.
Yeah, and those videos back then, many of them were shot for shot recreations of the actual
Yes.
videos. It's
Yes.
phenomenal. In fact, I had a hard time. There's a little snippet of "Eat It" on TV in
Yes.
the film,
And it's not
and I'm like, "Is that
accurate.
Daniel Radcliffe or is
Oh,
it"
no, I know what you're talking
right?
about.
I'm like,
Yes.
I couldn't tell. I
Yes, I
think they
couldn't
I
either.
think they deep faked Daniel Radcliffe onto Weird Al in the "Eat It" video, I think is what they did.
I thought, the same thing hit
It was
me.
pretty sure.
I
Here's
I
my
I was squinting like, who is that?"
here's my favorite moment of the whole film, and I guarantee you didn't pick up on this. You didn't see this. So at the very say you want to say how it ends?
Um,
Spoiler alert.
nah, nah, unless you have to tell this story.
Well, there's a I sort of do. Yeah. So
Uh,
if you haven't seen it,
yeah, you can cut
hit
out.
pause, go
Yeah,
see
cut
it,
out
come
here.
back. Yeah. Put a spoiler alert up on the screen. But there's a memoriam at the end of the film
Mhm.
that they're showing.
Okay.
And, there's a montage of his life, right? And then the cool thing is you're seeing actual images of Weird Al with all these famous celebrities, like you said, Madonna.
Right.
Some of them were photoshopped, but
Right, some of them were
they did
fake. He
that
was
on
with Paul
purpose. Well,
McCartney.
but there were legitimate ones where he was with people of that caliber,
Correct,
They kind of
correct.
mixed it up, so you didn't really know,
Yeah.
uh, but they show a memorial, and at the memorial, there's, flowers and there's some notes, left around, this memorial site, uh,
Al's memorial.
Al's memorial. Yeah, just go ahead and put it out there.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
he
You
dies
were
at
trying not to spoil
I
it
try not to,
completely.
yeah. Well, there's a letter leaning up against the memorial,
Yeah.
and I went back and paused it and read the whole thing, and it says, I've been one of your biggest fans. I watched you my entire life. And when I mean watched you, I actually would follow you to, yeah. And it goes on. And then the very end, it says, love Charles Nelson Riley.
How many people are gonna get that
I mean,
reference?
oh, match
That's
game.
so
I mean,
funny.
Charles Nelson Riley.
Oh,
And
god.
here's the thing too, is I thought, shame on me. I really, when it was all over, I said, why did I ever doubt this? This is Weird Al. The fact that the guy's had a career, like we said, built out of this absurdity.
Right, right.
He's a genius. The guy's a
I
genius.
know. I really had to twist your arm.
You
I
did.
I think I brought it up 3 times.
Mhm. And now I realize you were doing a little of the old that film with Mr. Black on
Right,
said network,
because I had already seen it,
Yeah, you were trying not to
and I
sort of
knew be that, like I said, the first hour, the references,
Mhm.
the stop at Doctor Demento's house, that all had me laughing. I thought it was really I don't know why, but it just went really
That's
dead for
weird.
me
Hmm.
when Madonna literally, when she rang the doorbell,
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
it just went south, and I remember when it ended, I literally turned over to take a nap. I was so
Really?
tired. I was
Wow.
exhausted.
No kidding. Yeah,
Yeah.
see, I think for me, again, it was my formative years
Yeah,
when
yeah,
all of those artists were coming up, Madonna and all that. I'm like 13 when that stuff's hitting.
yeah.
So it really resonated with me. The, Rotten Tomatoes, I mean, 85% from the critics,
Yes.
88% from the audience, not a surprise to me at all. Um,
That was another reason in me picking it was after I watched it, because 'cause I'm not gonna trust Jimmy Fallon with anything.
yeah, you saw the rating.
I went and checked to see what the critics did, and, I think it was like a 73
71
Metascore.
71 Metascore now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's pretty solid.
Yeah, and
Um,
it's not been out that long as of this recording. It's only been
no.
out like a week.
Yeah, so
So, Diedrich Bader was, plays what is, billed as the grizzled narrator.
yeah, he's the first one listed.
Yes, the kid that played the very young Weird Al, he was, I mean, spitting image.
There was 2 young
There was
Weird
2, yeah, there was
Als.
2 young.
Yeah,
They were
there was
they
the
were all
one at the
good.
table, the kitchen table,
Yeah.
and then there was who went to the party, and I think there was one before him too.
Yeah, Richard, let's see. Richard Aaron Anderson was young Weird Al.
Mm,
And trying to find, oh, Teenage Al was played by David Bloom.
okay.
But all like Diedrich Bader, um, give me just a second here. Diedrich Bader, Toby Huss. Well, there's a handful of others, like I said, that I couldn't believe how many of them were in the Veep series. It just was sort of mind blowing
Yeah.
to me. Um, yeah, Evan Rachel Wood from Westworld, which of course they're not coming back to finish that story.
I
That's a whole
know. What a
nother.
bummer. Now, the other thing we should bring up is this was actually already a movie.
Hmm.
This was done before. Weird. It was called something a little different. Weird Alkovich. I don't know what it was called. Weird.
Mhm.
What did I say? Alkovich. Where did I get the
Alkovic.
Al? I like
Your streak
crunched his
continues.
names together.
Weird Alkovic.
Alkovich. But Aaron Paul played Weird Al,
Mhm.
and it was for Funny or Die. For people who don't know, Funny or Die is like a sketch comedy kind of thing,
Yes.
where you see them everywhere. I don't know. Are they on a certain channel or?
I think it's more of a YouTube thing or
Yeah,
something.
they just pop up, and
Yeah.
Will
And
Ferrell's done a
and
bunch.
Eric Appel, who was the director of this film,
Uh-huh.
he
He
has some.
directed the last one, the first one I'm
Oh, did
talking about.
okay,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
He has an affiliation with Funny or Die, and I think with Upright Citizens Brigade, and yeah, I was wondering, I couldn't find it, but I wondered if he was related to Mike Appel, who was Bruce
The
Springsteen's very first manager when
Oh.
when he was getting his record contract with CBS, because they're both from New York. I thought, how many Appels do you know? But I couldn't
Uh,
find verification of it. So
there was a stand-up comic, Appel, Mike Appel or Dave
no, you're
Appel.
thinking
No,
of David
Dave
Tell,
Attell. Yeah. If
folks.
there's a name to
Folks,
screw up,
if
I
there's
will
a name
screw it
to
up.
butcher, it's
I will
on you.
do it.
Yeah. Um,
But I've never seen the Aaron Paul version,
I
and I
haven't
was
either.
searching for it. I couldn't find
Did you
it.
see Weird Al's other movies like UHF? Had you seen
No.
UHF? Yeah.
No.
I'd
No.
seen it, but it's been so long I didn't really remember those. So we mentioned a lot of the cameos. Um,
And there's a ton.
there's a ton of cameo. Josh Groban plays a waiter. Did you
Yeah.
notice that he plays a waiter in that?
That's the thing, the littlest
I
parts.
I thought of dad at one point because there's a really funny scene where Weird Al is at a biker bar,
Right.
and now this metal band has just gotten booed off the stage.
Right,
And
and
then
Weird
he's
Al
coming
comes
out
out.
to do his
Yeah.
polka bit,
Yeah.
which is when the guys, his roommates, you find out that they're musicians
Right.
and they join him on stage for Another One Rides the
They were like,
Bus.
"Look, he needs help." And the guy's playing
Right.
drums like perfect,
It perfectly, yeah, the bass player and everything. But there's a funny scene where there's some patron, some biker patron, and she leans over and grabs this huge, bartender. And she says, I want a round of beers and, a double scoop of rum raisin ice cream
That's
because
right.
we don't have ice cream here. She goes, well, you better have by the end of this song.
Right. Because he
But I was
was
thinking,
doing
Dad
he
used to
was
love that rum raisin ice
Rum
cream.
Raisin.
Oh
Yeah, he
God,
was
so
doing
good
the
for it.
song, the parody. What was the parody he was
Wasn't it
doing?
Another One Rides the Bus?
No, because it was about ice cream.
Oh, I'm
That
sorry, Rocky Road. I love Rocky Road.
I
That's right.
love Rocky Road.
That's
That's what it
right.
was.
That's
Yeah.
right. Good one. Yeah, good.
Because I'm like, there was a reason for her saying the ice cream. It wasn't just
Mhm.
random.
Yeah, yeah.
But so
Well,
anyways,
that's a thumbs up for me. So where are you at with this then?
I you know, I gosh, it's a mixed bag for me. I like the beginning.
Well, maybe as you said, if you're a fan of
If
Weird
you're a
Al,
fan,
if you grew up during that time, or
right,
that if you relate to that the pop culture of that time,
right.
then
I
you should
I would
definitely check it
recommend
out.
it to that group. If you hate Weird Al or you never heard of him, I don't know.
I don't know
Even with
because
all the references, you might not.
but I think it's a very funny standalone film. I feel like, the comedy stands on its own. And in fact, Weird Al's in it. We didn't mention he makes a cameo as a record
Right,
executive.
right, with a big bouffant
And
hairdo.
I love that. He's like a decent looking guy when he strips away
Yeah,
all the weirdness.
yeah,
Will Forte play
his
now.
assistant.
They're like the Scotty brothers, who it's a real like
That's
record
right,
producing duo that I think Weird has worked with in the past.
right.
But Will Forte from Saturday Night Live is in it,
He's fun.
and at one point he's berating, Daniel Radcliffe is Weird Al, and he's saying, "You are a talentless this and that." And the actual Weird Al, as the other record, is like, "Okay, yeah, I think we get it.
You went a little too far
Yeah, it's a
there.
little much. I think we're okay there. Yeah." So that was a funny
Yeah, yeah.
collaboration with them.
There's definitely some laughs for
Oh yeah,
anyone, I would think, in it.
yeah.
I don't know. I probably if it was shorter 10 minutes, I don't maybe if there was less Madonna.
This is one that I would add to my digital collection.
Really?
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah. In fact, I gotta believe when this comes out, if there's like bloated with extras, you're absolutely gonna lay down, plunk down
Maybe,
your money and
maybe.
get it. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing some of the real stories being told by him
Yeah.
because I found that interesting, and, I mean, it's free, so
Right. I mean, really.
how much could it cost?
Mm.
You
Yeah, an
know?
hour and 40 minutes of your life,
Yeah,
and
so,
I'm pretty confident you'd laugh. I mean,
yeah,
just the
and
opening.
I had trouble finding it as well.
Mhm.
So we
It
should
is hard to
tell
find.
people how to find it so they don't waste 45
I mean,
minutes.
basically, if you just go to your Roku, if you have a Roku TV or
Right.
Roku device,
That's the easiest
go
way.
to the Roku TV menu, go to movies, and you'll see it there on the like what's new or whatever under Roku
Right.
movies.
If you have a smart TV that can add apps, add the Roku app and it's free.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's
Other
true.
than that, go to Roku.com
Can you stream it on
and you can
online?
stream it. Yeah,
Okay.
I almost watched it on my phone. I was
Mm,
getting so frustrated that I couldn't find it.
right.
I found it in 2 seconds on my phone, and I watched his introduction, and I'm like, "I can't watch this movie on a phone."
No, no, no way. No
So,
way.
you know.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Again, for me, it just had a lot of cultural nuggets that just
Yeah,
kind of resonated with me, like I said.
and
So
like you said, I bet a second watching,
you
there's
pick up
even more nuggets.
Yeah, I mean, Jack Black as Wolfman Jack was so
That
ridiculous.
was funny.
I loved it. There was one other thing. There was a scene in there where, and I had mentioned already, like Weird Al lives a clean lifestyle, doesn't do drugs or anything like that. But there's a scene in there where Dr. Demento is in one of Weird Al's uh, tubs
Yeah, right.
because at this point in the film he's living in this palatial
Huge
estate
mansion, yeah.
and he's eating like chips and guacamole or
I don't
something.
know what he was eating.
Turns out the guacamole's laced with LSD,
Oh,
and
right,
Weird Al goes on this trip.
right.
Have you ever been disoriented in that way before? I
Me?
mean, yeah, not under the influence, but
No, one time as a kid, dad was away. No, dad was here,
mm,
and, I had a fever, and I went
for
what do
more
they call it?
cowbell?
N No, I was sick and my fever was like 104, and what do they call it when you, oh gosh, there's a name for it, like, it
Breaking,
it's like dementia, but
oh,
I don't know what it's
oh,
called.
okay, yeah.
In fact, when it
Yeah,
happened,
a fever something, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so I'm in my room, and I'm sharing a room with our older brother.
Mike's version of reefer madness here or something.
Yeah, and I sit up, I'm sweating, and everything is huge, right? Everything is big, and I am small. And I jump out of bed and I run out in the living room and I'm acting wild and going crazy. And then, you know, Dad, everybody in the house wakes up.
Fever dream? Is that what it is?
No.
Oh, okay. Thought I
God,
had it.
I'm so
I thought I
ticked
had it.
off. So, everyone in the house is freaked out. I don't think you were even born yet. And so Dad bear hugs me. I break it, dude. I break it. That's
Dude.
how wild I was. And next thing you know, him and Joey, our older brother, got me. And I'm beating the hell out of the
This
two
was
of them.
legitimate?
This is totally
sounds like something from Land of the Lost or
no,
something.
this is totally not made up. Delirious. I was delirious.
Delirious.
Thank you. Because there was didn't Eddie Murphy do a
He did. And
Yeah.
Prince has a great song called
so
Delirious.
I was legitimately delirious.
you know,
So then I had to throw up.
uh-huh.
And Dad and our brother are trying to hold me over the toilet, which is gigantic.
Mhm.
And I am fighting them, going for the tub, thinking the tub is where I have to throw up. And it went on for, I don't know, I mean, I was out of my skull.
How did I never hear this story?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you didn't, because
Sounds
Mom
like it's
does
a
not remember. After Dad used to travel a lot for work. This is back when he worked for Automatic Radio, and so
good
he
luck
used
finding a reference to that.
Yeah, I know. You look it up.
Yeah.
Automatedradio.com. He would travel, and Mom was afraid of me. She was literally afraid of me. Sometimes
Still
she would
is.
send me to a neighbor's house so I could terrorize them. But it happened one time when and every time I got sick after that, if I had a fever, it was always like everybody was on, Mike watch. Like, when's Mike going to go crazy?
Wow, really didn't expect it to go here.
Yeah, but I gotta believe it's kind of the same feeling as
I don't know.
I was just out of my skull.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's
Super
weird.
strength.
Yeah, and the brain is just a weird. I mean, like you do that thing where you walk into a room and you're like, why did I come in here? Like those kind of
Oh
moments.
yeah.
I kid you not, and we'll wrap up. But this was just a few days ago. I ran down to like my car or something because I'm in an apartment community right now. And so I ran out of my car or something, went to the mailbox, and I come back and I'm bombing up the stairs, full of piss and vinegar. And I go to just because I think I had left my door unlocked because I just was running downstairs. So I come bombing back up and I just kind of go to jump and lean into the door to get into my apartment. And I go, oh, I locked it. And then I look at it and go, this isn't my apartment. It's like, holy shit.
The door was open.
I know. I was a whole floor off.
Yeah.
And I've told you about the neighbors.
Yeah, exactly.
It was those neighbors. So
I have actually done that before.
I'm like, you just lose all sense of like, where
I've done that
you know?
before. I've walked in do you remember when I lived
It's a funny story about Dairy Queen, folks. No,
do you remember when I lived in a mobile home?
Yeah.
In Florida?
Yeah.
The next door neighbors, they were, she was always knocking on my door, making me cookies or something. I'd be like, oh, thanks. And, they'd hit the barrel. And
you ended up in there one night.
One night, I don't know why, I get up and I opened the door and just walked in. And luckily they were on the sofa, which is right there. And they were watching TV and, like kind of snuggling. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm looking at them and she looked and she says, good thing we weren't doing anything.
Yeah. Or you hear the cock of a shotgun or something, you know. I mean, good Lord.
But that was a weird one. That was odd.
Well, hey, some weird stories.
Yeah. If you stayed around this long, you've either unsubscribed already.
No. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. So if you're not currently following us, make sure that you do. And the easiest way to find all things Oh Brother is to go out to our official website, which is OHB as in brother podcast.com. It's ohbpodcast.com. And there's an easier way now to find us on YouTube. So you can go to youtube.com/@OhBrotherPodcast. And that's a quick and easy way to find the channel. Subscribe to the podcast out on YouTube. Watch our videos, give us a thumbs up. It really does help get the show out to more and more people. And we like interacting. We've been getting a lot of folks commenting on various videos that we post up there, and it's fun to interact. And it's nice to get people's honest feedback to not only what we're doing, but whatever the topic is, and they liked it, they didn't like it, whatever. So, but yeah, some weird stories to wrap up an episode.
I know.
Weird.
I don't know how we went off that track, but
yeah, this whole episode is weird.
I'll be sure if I ever get delirious again, we'll live stream it.
Yeah, at least do a FaceTime or something. Well, there you go. There's a review of Weird, the Al Yankovic story here on the Oh Brother podcast. So it's going to do it for another episode of the Oh Brother podcast. I've been your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith. And we will see you next time.